Hello, this is Lisa Lee and welcome to my channel. So we are doing part 2 of the Beauty and the Beast reading that we started yesterday. If you didn't watch part 1, this won't make sense. Part number 2 will just be gibberish. So I do suggest you go and watch part number 1 if you're called to this reading. And so as we enter this reading, that was some heavy stuff that came through in part number 1, and I haven't really been able to stop thinking about it, I'll be honest with you. This isn't stuff that's new to me, you know, in so many ways. When I watched the reading, the stuff that was coming through, it was like a known, like, you know, as a witch, I know, you know, that when people pass away, they don't just like evaporate, you know, sometimes they kind of go into the light or they go into reincarnation right away, but most of the time there's this in-between sort of a period. And knowing that, and knowing that there's an influence and understanding the nature of consciousness, like, it all makes sense. But there is a disorienting aspect to this information. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with this idea of your truth is powerful right here. That's sort of where we left off. And you know what I really like about this reading is that the Morrigan is showing me the movie. Like, I keep on seeing these scenes as we move through, and I like this. I like what she's doing. And so we're seeing the mirror, and we're thinking about the truth, you know. And I want to look at both partners because we've spent a lot of time with like what keeps us apart. What keeps us from seeing each other clearly, and it's really this enchantment, this story, and the influence of that. So let's start with the genuine feelings, truths, and vulnerabilities that each partner has at this point, and we're going to build from that truth because it's a base of love that we're kind of starting with. So let's go ahead. I'm going to get 2 cards, one to represent each partner. And I'm seeing the symbols for divine and masculine, divine feminine, and creating that bridge in between is, you know, restoring that balance within us and also on the outside. So this is trust yourself, coming out in terms of the divine feminine energy. And this is she feels and she knows. Let's take a look. Focus on the light. So this is really, you know, we're coming to this reading and Spirit is saying, like, we're going to go into some intense territory. Again, my channel, it's tarot theology. You know, it's always like a really, really deep dive. We're always sort of looking at the mysteries like very, very closely. But we're going to focus on the light. And in respect to that, we're gonna focus on like the living. We're gonna focus on like the conscious mind to begin with. So let me go ahead and get some tarot cards around these images. I love this image here because it's like coming to, yeah, let me get some cards here. I'm being told to start with the masculine energy. Yeah, that was intense. Yesterday's reading, like all the information that came through, you know, like a lot, it tracked, you know, it was like, oh, these are known knowns, but together it created a picture that, again, it's like, I knew it, but I didn't know it, you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of a thing. Wow. This is really powerful, and this is falling in the masculine. Holy crap, that's so beautiful. All right, let me keep going. 5 of Cups. Okay, makes sense. I'll explain all of this in just one second. Let me just get the cards out. We are at this beautiful turning point, and I love the change that's like kind of coming in here. And Spirit had me choose different decks to work with. And I'm glad, because what I'm seeing through this deck is just really profound, especially the story that we're looking at. All right, let's, the 7 of Cups, 8 of Pentacles. These are kind of coming up. These don't really come up reverse, but they are sort of coming up with, like when a card comes out and it hesitates, like I feel a hesitation. This is stuff that we're working our way through in the divine feminine consciousness here. With that 9 of Cups and that Page of Swords. So this is good. Let me grab some water. Okay, so this consciousness is this moment of a reckoning. This is like having won the battle and then you're sitting alone in your castle. Like, this is a miserable experience. Like, this battle that I won, my prize sucks, you know? And so with the King of Wands, and especially in this deck, you know, coming up almost in a sense of like, you know, won for what? There is a reckoning around this, you know, so what I was talking to Morrigan about this notion of, our ancestors experiencing like life through us, because it's creepy, you know what I mean? Like, and I knew it. I already know that, you know, in a way, but it doesn't, like, if I can explain it right, it's not like possession, you know what I mean? And it's not like you're being like overridden or something like that. Consciousness just is a place that you hold. And it's a place that you hold where it's meant to be interacted with. It's designed for that interaction. But our awareness, you know, and our understanding of what's going on is the difference between being manipulated and not. And so, you know, all of this manipulation on the part of gosh, I have to just lower that. I'm so sorry. I really wanted to start like making it a little bit more professional in here. So I brought some music in, but it's interfering with me channeling, so I gotta put that down. So with the Five of Wands being this conflict about what does it actually mean? What does it actually mean to be in a relationship? And I think that this has to do with like, okay, the only story that we understand about I love you goes a certain way. I love you, I danced with you once upon a dream. This is actually different. This is Sleeping Beauty. But there's this way in which we have this story about what it means to achieve this end. It's a wholeness and a oneness. So when we talk about the influence of the ancestors, and we talk about what we think of when we think of love, what the Morrigan is trying to show me is that we've been hoodwinked. We've been fooled. And the level of individualistic, it's like entrenched, you know, it's like, it's so deep for us to think of ourselves and our bodies as being like closed systems. So much so that it's like terrifying to think that they're not. And again, like back to this idea of like, what's the worst fear that you can imagine? Like being possessed by something, having something possess your body. And the body belongs to nature, and the body belongs to Mother Nature. And Mother Nature, this is really interesting. When we get sick, it's this way in which like, that's almost this proof that we don't have complete and total dominion over the body, that the body is still subject to nature. And the fear that we have around death is this fear that we have around this nature. And that's a very real thing that we have to look at when we look at this, because trying to control death and death's power over us, like, was this moment of this split in the psyche between like, I'm a part of my mother, and my mother is something that I'm afraid of, and you know, is going to destroy me. Like, there's that adversarial relationship toward the body of the earth and the body of nature is the adversarial relationship that like was created, you know, in the form of the story of patriarchy. There's the mother goddess religions that existed all the way up until we got what? Warrior savior story. So one story overtook the other story. And what is the warrior? Something that defeats death, makes death its enemy, and makes conquering death its mission. And so what we're seeing here with the divine masculine energy, like with this story that conquered the other story, like where did it lead? This individualistic place that's very far away from, you know, the ecosystem that we're all a part of. And that actually, this is not the outcome that anybody desired, right? And I think that that's what this conflict, this inner conflict that we're feeling in the lack of balance within ourselves about how do we use agency and how do we like do the get up and go versus what does it mean to receive when you have such need too? So this she feels, she knows kind of speaks to like this feeling of whatever happened, there's no like this is showing me I'm being shown Hollywood for some reason, and I'm being shown the Oscars and receiving awards, and then like I'm seeing someone like move past into the backstage and then be hit with like a nauseating like waft of like this is not it. This isn't where I want to be. There's only pain here. And so that's like, and I'm seeing the Wizard of Oz, and I'm seeing the curtain pulled back. And so this is like what we're looking at in terms of like, where is the beast right now? The beast is huddled in the corner, looking at its image in the mirror, thinking like, holy crap, for what? For what? I don't like this. I don't like this image, and I don't like where I am, and I don't want to be alone. I'm at conflict with this individualistic thing. And so, on the one hand, the thought that we share our body with nature is terrifying. But on the other hand, it's all that we want. It's what we seek. It's what we're looking for in the way of connection to the divine. Like when you think about the spaceman, I get this image a lot during the readings. When you think about that classical, movie where we see that the space person who's like disconnected from the ship, and they're like going back, and there's no greater horror than that scene right there, which goes to show that you don't want what you're taught that you're wanted in the way of being an island. And so this is where your divine masculine energy is really at odds with what it means to receive. And that's why, like, when we talk about restoring the balance, we restore the balance within ourselves so that we can help others restore the balance within themselves. And the story is all about creating like a division in the balance. And so, what the Morrigan is saying is like, these beasts know, they know that they don't want this. And they know that like, that this doesn't lead anywhere. And that is the reckoning that is being served to, back to what we got in the beginning of the first reading, part 1, this notion of influence. Now, if you're a medium, let me get some water. If you've ever dealt with ancient spirits or old spirits, like even Victorian spirits, the first thing that you're going to come up against is like a worldview where you're like, what the F? Like, excuse you, are you kidding? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of the things that like hurt me bad in my work, as somebody who crosses ghosts over, and as somebody who deals with like the gnarliest of gnarlies. Like I'm that person, I'm the one that deals with that. So always, I first have to like identify what I'm dealing with, and then I kind of have to do all sorts of things. But one of the first things that like really throws me with the ancients is like, it's speaking a completely different language, and it's having to honor that that's a completely different language. And it also shows just how influenced they are, by the values of the era that preceded them. And so what is when you think about all these Victorians, like the earth is absolutely haunted with Victorians. I will tell you that is like the most prominent group of ghosts that I see are Victorians. Why? Because they denied every like desire in order to sort of, meet the mark on heaven. And then there's no heaven. And so what happens next? I have all of these suppressed desires. Now, where are they going to have the experiences that they were promised that they never got? There's simultaneously the despair with there's no heaven, and the cynicism with like, I'm lost and there's no heaven. And then like, well, what am I going to do about all of the sacrifices I made? I denied my flesh. So what do you think happens in our era? What does it become about? It becomes about them experiencing that which they did not get to experience in order to understand, like, the value of it, because it becomes a huge value. And so we have the mess of like whatever was the previous suppression. And that's why, when you think about like, what does it mean to work with feminine magic? It's to like work in this muck. And to say like, oh, I identify, where that comes from, why it's appearing, and how it's operating through me right now. This is how the soul kind of works itself out, believe it or not. So what does that mean? It means that like we both have more power and responsibility than we realized. And it also means that coming to a place of peace about the nature of what our consciousness actually is, and that the body does belong to nature. Again, these are just these things that we have to kind of like begin to reckon with in order to restore this balance here. Because this is the lack of balance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine is the lack of balance we have between that which is our nature and that which is not, right? That which is inspiration and that which is the nature that holds that inspiration. We have a war between the two. And so to get balance, we have to say death, nature, and the body, and the wilds, and the weather. How are we supposed to trust this? How are we supposed to feel safe with this? How is this actually mother? And so let's take a look at the divine feminine energy, you know, to begin to start to answer that question with that trust yourself. 8 of Pentacles, 7 of Cups, 2 of Wands, 6 of Wands, and the 9 of Cups here under the Page of Swords. The first thing that we want to do is become coherent. Yeah, that's where all the power is. So this trust yourself and this divine feminine energy, this is almost like the influences, right? I'm being shown to highlight for you that there's a difference. Okay, so sometimes we're going to have to like deal with worldview conflicts, and I hate that. I hate that so much because I'm so firmly rooted in my own worldview. But part of what it means to come into balance is to reconcile the two very different worldviews. So when we think about our ancestors and the ancestors that are working their crap out through our experiences and their influences, that these are ways in which we're influenced in preference, just generally speaking. And so when we accept ourselves and we accept our preferences, like sometimes that's part of it, but there's this other part of it that the Morgan says, watch out for the deceiving and the deception. So I'm going to be careful with whatever that is. And so as I move towards this notion of like, what is consciousness? Consciousness is a lot like this image here. And the shamans understood that. I'm just looking at this real quick because what I'm being shown is like reconciling our relationship with the body, and reconcile is almost like partially like reconciling our relationship with death. But I don't know why I'm being shown that in relationship to consciousness. Okay, so I'm being shown a scene from a Netflix series called Sense8. And the premise of that is that there's a group of people that are born in a pod, and that they all share each other's gifts and abilities, and they share a mind. And so, you know, the gift to humanity through working with this type of magic is this sensate quality of being able to call up these different abilities within your, like once you almost like hack consciousness. Oh, this is really interesting. My throat chakra is acting up, so there's a lot of resistance. But you know, one of the cool things about channeling, and I'm going to bring through my own experience, is it's a lot like having a search engine, you know, an internet search engine. Like it basically, like you put yourself in that state of reception, and then you can pretty much pull any information forward through channeling. In the same, it's like you don't need the technology. The technology is a cheap imitation of what we can already do consciously with channeling. If you understand what consciousness actually is and how to work with it, and how to work with your ancestors in a way where you're actually are able to take this notion of what you are and make use of it in a positive way. So this is where we have magic being really powerful and suppressed at the same time. But the responsibility of like what you bring in and make use of is with you. And so it's tricky because we have a lot of hurt and a lot of misuse of power, and a lot of trying to have power over throughout it doesn't matter, masculine, feminine, everyone has a problem with how to manage power because the truth of the matter is we've been lied to about what we are, who we are, and what we're capable of, and what it means to manage this kind of knowledge. Now I'm being shown a female body, and I'm being shown a fetus in a belly, and I'm being told that woman isn't possessed by the fetus; she's holding it. And so when we think about what our bodies are capable of and what the vessels actually do, and the same is true of it doesn't matter what body you're in, we don't get overcome unless we get overwhelmed. And the overwhelm comes from fear and taking fear in and letting fear be the dominant, like that'll, yeah. So there's a trick to this. You're very protected. You are sovereign. Anything that you're interacting with, it's interacting with the room of your consciousness. You're not being possessed and animated. But when you abjugate, like when you abandon yourself and when you abandon your body, like there's a way in which there's a lot of manipulation there. And so the goddess Morrigan is saying, like, knowing is your defense, you know, in some respects, and having a positive attitude and surrounding your life with positive things, in an open-hearted, honest way, and being, you know, working with yourself and working with your shadow. Like, these are all things that keep you clear of energies that you don't want that influence. And so doing the work, you know, gets you there. So you don't have to really be too vigilant, you know, like there's something here. So with the Eight of Pentacles and the Two of Wands being about, like, you know, putting the work in and making the plan to move into a different kind of romance. And so, like, the romance story that is, like, given to you, like, we're going to rewrite it. That's what it means to have a new vision here. And so, like, having this romance, like, we're working our way out, and we're sort of, like, at this point of, like, you know, entering this new space. But this is total and complete confusion about what this victory over the old story might even mean, because the old story at least kind of held things together. It offered us some coherence. Now, the goddess Morrigan is kind of showing me that, like, we're always after coherence. Like, spirituality is always about finding coherence, that bridge between the conscious and the unconscious mind. And I need some water in order to keep going, because my throat chakra is kind of like taking a little bit of a hit. I was like sort of trying to aim towards genuine feelings here, but what we have here is genuine confusion about what it is to even have success in a relationship, what it is to even feel safe with love. And the Nine of Cups is about what, you know, this lack of motivation. You know, this comes through readings all the time. You're not lazy. If you don't have conviction about what you're doing, you're not going to be motivated to do it. And if you're not motivated to do it, you're you know, basically being your own slave driver in a certain respect. And so this, like, getting to the heart of what you really want when the landscape has changed so much or seems so unreliable, finding some coherence and some messaging about it. This is the truth of where divine feminine energies are right now. And so I want to see, I want to look at, so that's the genuine feelings and truths. Five of Cups on the bottom of the deck with the Eight of Coins is just like, you know, working through this grief. I'm going to get a couple more cards. I want to see just a little something. I'm being told to use this little deck here. Yeah, there's a weariness in the divine feminine energy. It's like weary and like, what can I do instead of? Like, how do I make do with this glimpse of like freedom is revealing just a lot of loneliness almost. And that's by design, I'm being told. But it's like, what the Morrigan is telling us to do is to hack the unconscious, to hack that part of, to actually understand the power that we have in sort of knowing some of this information, like being let into some of this mystery. Okay, with the root here and the reach out, these are all trees. Not the deck is not, but okay. So again, we're back to the mirror and we're back to the reflection. Well, the mirror and the reflection, see yourself clearly. See what we are clearly, like develop a coherent picture. With the root and reach, like this is sort of the divine feminine Gaia. You know, this is Gaia being able to sort of like reach through some of this. Gaia isn't well, you know, that we know that's known. But some of what this ancient magic that's kind of like moving its way through for us, that is sort of like opening the doors from us that we can begin to create into this space. So yeah, so I'm hearing like Gaia, you know, is actually inviting us into this information, so that we can be aware and start to work with it. Because with shadow and trove, there is a treasure trove of power to be found in working with these shadow aspects in terms of confronting what it means to be at war with death. You know, when that story changed, like, you know, what we're feeling is in relationship with that. So I want to see what it means to be at war with death. I mean, I don't know. where else to take this, because that's when we see like Gaston, you know, and that's this divine masculine patriarch trope come in, you know, with the social expectations and the peer pressure and the temptations and, you know, that threat, you know, that challenge to union. That's the mirage, you know, that's the lie. That's the power struggle that has no place in love. But that the patriarchy is showing up as an answer to wanting to control death. With the Two of Swords blocking the heart. Three of Coins. The Empress. Oh yeah, great. And the Star card. So the fear of the womb, the fear of the cave, the fear of death. Wanting to control it. So the Morrigan's almost saying the desire to control death and the desire to control women are the same. It's the same, it's root of the same tree. That's what the tree, I'm like trying to get it. But with the Two of Swords, the Three of Coins, and the Empress, blocking the Empress from bringing her magic into the world, from bringing that religious technology into the world. And again, when we think about like technology as being a substitute for magic, it's almost like we can blind ourselves forever if we keep on extracting from the environment what we already have within as resources. And so with the Star card being about healing and bringing a new world view into view, it starts with unblocking our hearts about what it means to really work with death. To really work with death. That's our influence. Taking back our power is taking back our spiritual authority and our position with death. It's a really interesting twist. This reading has taken a really interesting twist. So I'm actually going to move these cards away so that we can just look at that, because this is tarot theology, where we're actually looking to move away from this reading with something valuable in the way of insight that changes us for the better. So it heals us. So let's go ahead and so this glimpse at our reflection in this way is also an invitation into what it means to work with energy consciously, to build into the space of the unconscious. How do we work with death? All right, let's start this up. And we're going to be using this deck. And I need to take these off and grab this. And I'm hearing, so Hecate is always with me because I'm like, she's my main, I work with all kinds of deities, but she's the one that, like I almost like live with her my whole life, you know what I mean? So she's saying patience, patience. I get so nervous sometimes during these readings, I'll be honest with you. Because I get like, the channel, as it comes through, it's a lot of stuff and I kind of just grab at whatever I can manage to bring through. And I always feel like I'm missing a lot as I do that. And I don't think that's part of my process. Anyway, so let's go ahead and look at this fear of death as being the antidote. Overcoming this fear of death as being the antidote. Let's see what that means. Or yeah, okay, maybe need a better relationship with that. So with the Destroyer, all right. Let's see where we're going with this. And the Healer. What do we got on the bottom of the deck? The Box. Oh, this is awesome. I love this so much. Okay, let me get some more cards. With the Destroyer and the Healer, I mean, talk about a beautiful balance right there. And this box is all of the distortion between like the truth and like I'm seeing the contortions around the truth in order to keep us from this knowledge, because that's the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, let's take a look. I'm being shown nature shows. I don't know if you watch my readings. If you watch my readings, you know that I'm always upset about nature shows because I find you know, it's like so beautiful. I'm like totally like sucked in, and then somebody eats like a, you know, a baby seal, and I can't handle it. So when we think about this destroyer energy, it's like, how do we reckon with this life-giving force that also takes it? And this notion that like evil is to have that life taken, but is it because we eat plants, or we eat meat, whatever it is? Like, so let's take a look. You know, we're part, I think that like, so the Morrigan is saying like, it's us being at odds with the food chain, not knowing that we're absolutely, of course, still a part of it. And I think that that's sort of the reckoning with this reading, is like, you know, understanding our place in nature is kind of understanding that we don't control it. And that's nature from a spiritual perspective. Well, you know, that has a much bigger influence than we realize. Okay, wow. Damn. All right, so this is already going to be really powerful. Empress, Hanged Man. Two of Cups on the bottom of the deck. So I kind of love that there needs to be a relationship between the destroyer and the healer. Something that came through another reading, I don't remember where it was, so I can't point you in that direction, was this notion of mother, we were talking about the mother, nature, something like that, and I was talking, the nature of movies are coming back to me again. And like, if you see the predator and the prey and the dance that happens there, when an animal is attacked and a lion is eating gazelle, when the gazelle cries out in death or in pain, death picks it up. You know, death picks you up. The way that life brings you through, death picks you up at that moment of transformation. And it's not a negative experience. Like, anybody will tell you that it can be, but it's very confusing. And ultimately, like, there's this moment when you enter death where the duality almost kind of falls away. And that can be very disturbing for people that are cling to that, like their life depends on it, or their being depends on it. And so with these 8 of Cups and this Ace of Coins, the destroyer is here to end one path and begin another. And this is where we sort of have to defer to these cycles. You know, all of goddess worship is about deferring to cycles. The cycle of the moon, and knowing that sometimes the moon disappears and then we are in the void space, but from the void space, new life is born. And so, you know, when we bury our dead, we are returning to the mother, that which we expect that is going to be delivered back to us. Now, with the 4 of Coins and the 7 of Swords here, holding on to a lie about what it means to transform is kind of like at the heart of calling it evil. I need more on that. I need more on that for sure. Let's get some more cards here. So it's almost like this coming into union between like the yin and yang, the dark and the light, is having a relationship with death that isn't a conquering sort of a position, which can be very, very hard because we're conditioned to feel like yeah, let me just keep on going because we're getting into some really heady stuff. So let's take a look and see this. Because you know, for me, it's like, I just want to survive. You know, everyone just wants to survive. We all just want to survive. So why is our relationship to death, like, of course our relationship to death is going to be adversarial. It's against the goal of survival, isn't it? And I think this energy is kind of coming through to say, well, you know, with this 7 of Swords, no, no, no. That's where the great, that's this great deception here. Bottom of the deck energy of 2 of Wands is plan a new perspective, a new road, a new way forward. It's not opposition to death, but it's also not opposition to life. It's a third path. And so this box, you know, really does like signify like, you know, our consciousness under layers of influences and under a structure that keeps everybody from reaching the pinnacle of enlightenment one way or another. And this has been going on for a real long time. And again, I'm being shown that the one story conquered the other story. The story about cycles and the mother was conquered by the story of the warrior who said, cycles don't rule, and cycles do. And so this battle is one we have to sort of start to look at survival in a different way. It's almost like the Morrigan is calling us to just, and she's a goddess of the battlefield. She's calling us to look at survival in a completely different way, so we can begin to sort of grasp what it means to free ourselves from that other story that buries us alive, without knowing who we are, what we really want. And again, back to what we really want. We don't want the spaceman floating away from the ship. We want actually to be sharing the space that we're in with our consciousness. We don't want to be alone with that. So like, that's the greater truth. And I think that when we're looking at what's the truth here, the truth is we don't want to be separated from nature, and we don't want to be afraid of the cycles that they're going to rule our life no matter what. We want to have a good relationship with the cycles, and we want to have a relationship with death that doesn't feel like an adversarial. You're born to fight it off. You're born to be in conflict. You're born to have to like negotiate with the duality all the time. Evil is death trying to get you. Good is you trying to avoid it. And so, and anything that plays with that dynamic is conquering like the truth of who you really are. So the truth of who you really are is the desire the opposite of the spaceman, like floating away from the ship. And so, I want to look at this healer with the Empress, the Hanged Man, the Knight of Coins, and the Ace of Cups, because this really signifies, what it means to bring this into balance. It's hard not to get lost with this channel. I'm going to be honest with you all. I want to look at like, okay, so I want to, it's just the Morrigan is keeping me on track. She's kind of keeping me managing this channel by showing me back to the Beauty and the Beast. And she's like, okay, the Beauty and the Beast went on an adventure and they bonded. So these challenges and these adventures that strengthen a bond, they confront, okay, so she's showing me like, when you put two people into an adventure, whatever the hell worldviews they drop into that adventure with, that experience is going to force a change of that perception based on it not being practical, and it doesn't work. And that's where we come back to like where the divine masculine is right now with like, I won what? The patriarchy, what did we win? Like nothing, right? And so let's look at this adventure, because with the healer here, and the Empress and the Knight of Coins is really saying like, we have to create our way forward. We have to create into that empty room. The vacancy that is created by organized religion is going to lead to a nihilism that is basically like why the underworld is as quote unquote evil as it is. It's that nihilism and operating through that nihilism. Now, when we build into that empty room, that space of consciousness, that is what death is all about, we have to begin to do this process, and it is a process. It is at first understanding this is who I am, this is what I do. And as a creator on this earth, during my living phase as a creator, I create into the infrastructure of what comes next. And that's like a big long thing. But with the Hanged Man and the Ace of Cups, you aren't stuck. You have so much power. Your magic is better than any search engine that exists on this earth. The way that you're able to start to begin to use it is to understand. Then I'm seeing the scene from that show again, Sense8. I don't remember much from that show. I don't know much of that. I think I saw like an episode or something like that. So I suggest, I guess you have to like read the Wikipedia or like watch a trailer or something like that. But what the Morrigan is telling me is she's showing me a battlefield, and she's showing me the battlefield is one energy. It's a hive on the battlefield. And if you understood the power of what that meant, and the battle that you find yourselves in right now in terms of old worldview, new worldview emerging, and the horror nightmare in between, we have to understand that, that we're not alone in any of this, and that we have the backing of, and I'm actually behind me, I'm seeing divine feminine female ancestors are all stepping forward in a line behind me, as if to say like, no, we're here with you. We know what we're doing. We understand this underworld. We have been influencing you in this direction and helping you in this way, both male and female. It doesn't matter if you're here. It means that you have the heart of the mother, and that we're moving into this together, and that you should begin to access your superpowers by knowing who and what you are, and starting to work with these energies very consciously is not freaking out every time time it feels like something's in your aura. Oh my gosh, individualistic, you know, like my energy, draining, you know what I mean? Like this is buying into a capitalism of energy instead of like a capitalism of money. And as we enter a creative economy, we're gonna have to watch this. Is going to be our demise if we're not careful. Because with a creative economy and basically what's happening, and I'm seeing again, technology mimics magic. It's like, here, take this so that you'll never look over there, that you'll never start to, you know, here's a cell phone. You'll never think twice about your telepathy, right? There's something to that. And so what we're being shown is like, you know, as we enter a creative economy, if we think of ourselves as being hive, we're much better off than if we're trying to like, oh no, I said that word. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we're going to shut ourselves off at the past, and we're going to isolate ourselves more and more and more, trying to protect these like corners of our consciousness where we're creating from, if we think that this is you know, is it like if we enter into that kind of exchange. But if we actually see what we are and the way that we're influenced and the way we operate, then we can just much more, and I'm hearing the word sense-8. I don't know, we have to look that up later as a group. But I want to look at this shared adventure that we can now take, you know, as we build into this empty room, as we build into this unconsciousness, and as we tap into that ancestral magic here. This Ace of Cups is like the well of the love, the divine feminine rising to sort of unstuck us. Yeah, so it's basically like it's a thing of perception, you know, in terms of our how limited we are. So let's start this adventure. I want to see where this adventure wants to go, between the destroyer and the healer. This relationship between the death, what gives death, and what gives life in this cycle, playing itself out. All right, so the goddess Morrigan is like, you don't avoid death, and if you spend your life trying to avoid death, then you most certainly are just. She's showing me somebody like paying death all of their life because they wanted to stay away. That it's like that you're paying the vig or something like that. So let's see this adventure that we're on with this Two of Wands kind of just popping out. Like, we have to plan our way forward. So let's see what this plan our way forward to surviving and overcoming this curse together, and forming a new vision of what it is to be in love, what it is to interact with romantic love. Like, we're going to be looking at this without a curse. And so without that story, what's the story? And that's kind of where the divine feminine energy is right now. Like, what's the story going forward? So let's take a look. What is the shared adventure that we have to take? I'm being told to use oracle cards. Nope. Which ones? These. Okay. It's gonna be another long reading. It's all right. It's all right. It was a little hard to get back into this energy, so there's some stumbling at the very beginning of the reading, but that's all right. So let's take a look at this shared adventure. There are others like you. So, you know, as we all sort of collectively, face this fear of annihilation. I mean, that makes sense. And so the Morrigan is also like, nobody does well ignoring like what they feel is nature communicating with their bodies about. Like, I'm seeing a burning sky, an orange sky, and that the animal in you knows to run. And so there's this agitation that's happening like collectively, where we're having to face this fear of our own annihilation in order to in any way begin to bring that magic in. That and it's funny because there's a guide behind me that's saying like witches are our last line of defense at this point. That divine feminine magic that has survived within you, and it's like a resilience, and it's a it's the spirit of Gaia. So anyway, so with these two cards being about like kind of where we start this adventure, and is it lonelier at night, and find your night self, let's start talking about death. And I didn't know that we were going to go here, but the adventure that we are now taking is to not be afraid of divine feminine magic, that close your eyes and there's darkness, that mystery, that your body you don't have control over it. If it gets sick, you'll know firsthand that it's an ecosystem that belongs to nature, right? Aging, you know, that's a really good example of your body belongs to nature. So this possessiveness over the body is like ego, hierarchy in and of itself, which I think is wild because I don't know how to ever think outside of that. But let's take a look at this. With the Two of Cups, again, about coming into balance and coming into union, and the Three of Coins coming out, again, this is about creating a new, okay, so we're creating into that room of the underworld. And this Four of Cups is about not being able to see clearly what we truly want. And the Six of Swords is about moving into a better place with that. And this King of Coins is, oh, this is interesting. He can't even see him. He's hidden in plain sight. So our divine masculine energy that we're looking for, like a level of stability with what is true divine masculine energy and how true divine masculine energy works in the world, is hidden in plain sight, but we don't know what it is until right now we're going to find out. And so the first thing that we want to understand is when we think about yin and yang and the divine feminine energy being represented by the dark. And the dark is beautiful. So it's where life grows in the womb and in the dark, you know. So the dark is this beautiful place. When we think about what's hidden in plain sight about what divine masculine energy actually is it lonelier at night and find your night self? It's like find the beauty and the power and that divine feminine nature that women facilitate bringing life into the world, and women are supposed to facilitate the death process as well. And the closer we are to this life and death process, the more power we have to transform both, which is pretty incredible, actually. And so with the Two of Wands here, again, we're back to like Two of Wands, Two of Wands. The Morrigan is very clear with us. Begin to plan your way forward. Begin to chart a road into that space of the unconscious, that empty room where organized religion is falling right now, and where people don't know how to find their footing with like the stuff that they don't understand, the things that they're afraid of with death. You know, an antidote again to like the nihilism. It's like the worst infection, the worst like spiritual sickness that exists is this nihilism. That's why you see ghosts, I don't know, in bad ways sometimes. So with this Eight of Pentacles being about like this is going to be work, and with this Two of Pentacles being that you have to make a choice here, and the Queen of Wands about the way that you allow your inspiration to move you forward into the battlefield with this Four of Pentacles. You know, the first thing that we have to do is we have to let go of some control, and that's a little bit hard. Let's get some cards on what the heck that means. So these two energies that are sort of lost, like where are we going? How do we relate? What does it mean? That I'm seeing that enchantment between beauty and the beast is where we have all the power. So we've got the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and the enchantment in between. And the work that we're able to do by working with that enchantment in between is basically like where we're going in the back door to pull down that power structure. And so, you know, by identifying that energy as energy that's malleable, as energy that's not fixed, as energy that divine feminine magic is natural to begin playing with this. So that Queen of Wands speaks of the inspiration that drives you through that war as being something that is the Morrigan is saying, an inexhaustible resource. You aren't in energy wars. Nothing unseen is exhausting your energy. It's everything that's seen that's exhausting your energy, and it's trying to avoid death and looking at it and what it means to even interact with that. That's what's exhausting your energy. So we have to get rid of some of this like economy of energy thinking, because it comes from, it's again like the demon is always hiding the actual evil. And so this idea of like your energy can be taken and something can, you know, influence you like as being something to avoid really keeps you away from using those tools, doesn't it? And using, you know, and so like that's power that you're meant to sort of take hold of. And so when you think about the unseen realms and you think about your role in it, first, like the divine feminine energy, that energy of reception, like of understanding, you have authority in that. And to take that and spirit, the Morrigan is saying, I invite you into your spiritual authority. Your power of perception, where you put your attention and decipher and make meaning of, sets the shape of it, quite literally. And so like the more you put your attention on like the inside, go into that cave within, you know, be in that darkness with your ancestors and begin to sort of communicate with them in a way that says like, what are we doing? Where are you guys going? What are you trying to create here? I am this bridge. You know, I can interact with you. You know, if you're bringing stuff up that is gnarly, let's look at it. Why is it there? There's some mothering that the Morrigan wants you to bring into the battlefield. She's saying, you know, you can't defeat it. It can't be defeated. Oh wow, that's really beautiful. I said this a long time ago. I was having a conversation a while ago with another witch, and I said something to the effect of like, what's my faith? My faith is that you're not going to shoot your mother. You know what I mean? And that's the truth. You know, when it comes to dealing with really gnarly spirits, like sometimes when I go in there and I'm dealing with it, my faith is that you're not going to shoot your mother, because I go in with a mothering energy, and it's its own kind of form of protection. And so I think that spirit is sort of inviting us all into that kind of like attention towards, you know, the stuff that we prefer not to look at. And the Morgan had me laughing this morning with this notion of like Freud thinks he invented the unconscious mind, or a conception of it. That's been what the magic that women have been working with since the beginning of time. He thought that, you know, he invented talk therapy as a cure, when like the meaning of gossip used to be like the one friend that you sat and talked everything through with. And then it was this type of like, before gossip was turned into a negative word. I got this from, everybody should be listening to that podcast, BBC. I think it's just called Witch. And there's this notion that like the meaning of the word gossip was like women who sat and communicated and talked to each other. And then it got turned into a negative phrase when we wanted to separate, you know, we called it keep women away from each other and away from this magic and this knowledge of healing. And so when we think about all the little ways that things have been co-opted and moved into, you know, distortion, you know, it's about taking back ground, like one little thing at a time. And that's sort of what this Two of Pentacles and this Eight of Pentacles is to move into a better place with this. This Four of Cups is look at what you don't want to look at. Look at what you're afraid of. There's a lot of magic in there. There's bounty in what you don't want to look at and what you don't want to deal with and what you don't want to take apart. And so I'm hearing something, and I want to do like a whole reading on this, like separate, but every single time, yeah, I'm just going to say it. I mean, we're getting long, and I want to try and keep it like, I don't care. And then Morgan is like, I'm an oracle. She's like, why are you even worried about time? So what I want to say here is that all crime is domestic violence. And so if we bring this energy of like the mother into the room that says like, there's something wrong with my son and there's something wrong with my daughter, and it's this influence between, and I have a lot of power over that, and I'm going to start to work with that from that place of like mothering love that is not tolerant of cruelty, but that seeks to heal it at all costs, because that's her baby, right? And the same goes for, you know, the divine feminine energy that seeks to heal it at all costs, because that's her baby. And so we have to step into that spiritual authority, you know, with that energy. And so that's what the Morgan is telling us to do in terms of this shared adventure, is to make use of this energy of mothering as a tool. And to not feel like it's you know, a type of labor that isn't already the shape of your heart. Okay. And so, and she said that with authority. Oof, you know, so that's something to that. So I want to look, so that's the shared adventure. That's, you know, this Two of Swords and this moving things into a better place is about creating our way in with this mothering energy that says like, you know, I have power here, and here's where my power can be truly effective. And she's saying like, you have no idea how powerful this approach is, because it's going to sort of reveal, we're going to look right now at what this divine masculine, so she's saying that the adventure that we're going on is to find what has been hidden in plain sight very purposefully. The divine masculine doesn't even understand the nature of its of agency and the nature of what it means to work with that inspiration. That's where we're all heading towards in the way of like this adventure and this quest, and it's something that we have to work towards, you know, with that certain kind of approach. So we're going to look at the transformation, and then we can wrap it up, because I want to keep this as coherent as possible. It's like a lot that she's bringing through. And it's, again, you know, this creativity, your creative, the genius, the inspiration. That's, she's saying, like, that's what's, I'm going to leave this card out. That's what we're talking about. It's related to that. So, like, it's funny. She bring us, like, through this idea of death and, like, dancing around it. And what does it mean to not fear death and not feel fear the destroyer? She says to step into it. When you start to communicate with your ancestors, and when you start to communicate with, you know, that mystery, and it's trippy, the 4Ds, and it's some trippy stuff, you know, you have to understand that it is an acid trip, you know, in a kind of a way. That when you begin to interact with, like, that which is forbidden in a way that says, I'm not afraid of any of this. I am in a position of spiritual authority over all of this, because this is my time in the phase of existence that is life, to create into this void for myself and for my ancestors and for myself after death. That's what the Morrigan's trying to bring in so powerfully, is that you're not just creating into this space for your ancestors, you're creating into this space for yourself, because you're going to end up, you know, in the experience of the story that's to come anyway. And that's the heaven on earth. Like, what's the story that we create going, that we're going to be operating through, the healing that we create, that we're going to be operating in. That's kind of a lot. So let's take a look at this transformation really quickly. And I think this transformation is about this uncovering the secret of what is hidden in plain sight, and what that, bringing that balance to the divine masculine. Because, oh, okay. So the Morrigan is saying the divine masculine energy was co-opted to, instead of doing what the divine masculine energy naturally did, it was given the job of circumventing death with the warrior story. And that was never its job. And so we're going to find out what its job was, so we can understand what harmony would even look like. Let's take a look. The way that, and I want to help you understand. So the Morgan's saying, like, I want to bring you in on, like, what does opposition feel like? What does opposition to the message feel like? What does opposition to operating in this creative way feel like? Right now, it feels like me being like, this is taking too much time. I'm taking too much time with it. It's sneaky. Evil never looks like a gremlin. It always looks like you're taking too much time. You know what I mean? And so, like, we have to begin to sort of work with inspiration and everything that comes against it as like what it is to kind of operate in this way. And so one of the first things that we have to understand about divine masculine energy is it is represented by the term inspiration. So let's take a look at that. Oof. Wow. 10 of Swords, 5 of Cups, 9 of Swords, and the 8 of Wands. With the 10 of Coins at the bottom of the deck. That's like dizzying, actually. I'm gonna just move this. Oh my gosh, this is actually like one of the more intense energies that I've ever even felt. So we're planning to sort of figure out how agency and inspiration is supposed to work in a world where accumulating generational wealth as a defense against death, like, no, we've already decided that that's not going to work out. So this 9 of Swords is just like, is kind of like facing, let me just get a little bit more, because I don't want to veer too far in that direction. I'm being told to kind of like keep it till like the transformation is about realizing what this really is. So I need to see that more clearly, because it's hard to grasp. You know, this is a concept that I've never, that's like not even, it's like so buried. It's hard for me to even see it clearly. It's like hearing a part of language that, like, I don't know. Okay, so part of it with this mothering energy and the empty room coming back at the bottom of the deck. It's important to let what has already been established in the way of a prevailing narrative fall. And that definitely means like the reason why I was like, I don't even know what this is. I can't even see what this is. It's like it's in a different language. Like we don't even have the framework for what the balance actually feels like. It's been off balance and it's been a problem for so long. So there's this aspect of the balance has to do with a net. And it has to do with, like, you know, us each being a different strand in the net that holds the weight of humanity's consciousness, basically. And so with the mother here coming through to say, the first thing that we have to acknowledge about what everything we know, everything that has been established with this 10 of coins is false. This 5 of cups is and especially in this deck, and these are all masculine energy showing up right here with the 5 of cups, being bound by your grief, having the story just be about like how this is the story of like you're born, you know, you work and then you die, right? That's what that is. You know, this is the death is your enemy because it, you know, it takes away all the life that you've accumulated. By the end of your life, there's not much that you're doing except sitting in a room with some I'm being shown like that again, like, you know, this has always been a lie. With that 10 of swords, like, you know, and that 8 of wands. There's a lot that has to just be let to die. And there's a lot of suffering that has to sort of be brought to the surface. With this 8 of wands, like, there's a lot of interference with this. Even right now in this reading. So when we have that mothering energy and we have that empty room, there's a part of me that thinks that we're in the shared adventure right now, and to try and like completely understand how this is all going to come together again, like when we're just in the middle of it, like we're almost being told to sort of understand that our power comes from allying with ancestors. And those ancestors that aren't in accordance with the truth going forward have to be addressed, and they have to be healed. And we already went over that. And so that this is bringing that same information through is confusing to me, because it's almost like this fear of being without this structure is keeping this this hidden. And I guess it's enough of a fear that even I'm having a hard time seeing past it, with the Knight of Cups being about an offer of love, and the Emperor being about taking dominion over what it means to offer love and be offered love. And I guess that's where we have the Mothering card coming back in again. So the adventure is really about like taking this step towards love despite it like not seeing what it is to love. Taking the step towards love without even seeing like what it is to love, knowing that there's something worth loving there underneath the disguise. Gosh, this is kind of convoluted. I apologize for that. Let's see if we can get this transformation a little bit clearer. Create a net. Participate. She knows. Yeah, it's like so the Morrigan's almost saying like defend to the end the worthwhile. You know, we're not at that point of transformation yet. We're at that reckoning with the truth right now, and we're tasked with this notion of bringing a love into this world that can transform and heal. And looking like beyond the surface of appearances to understand like the true essence of what we're trying to heal. And I'm not even able to get that full clear picture right now. And as hard as this is, to kind of like let the reading sit at a point of where I don't know the answer, you know, like I don't know like what the transformation is. It's because we have to sort of participate with this process. It's not determined. And I can't get, like, I'm so close to like a clear picture, and it's kind of driving me crazy because it's like, I want to sit here in meditation for 20 minutes silently, and I guess I could. But with conception and healing and the divine masculine coming out, and delight at the bottom of the deck, you know, there's such a brokenness around interacting with that energy. There's such an anger about, you know, what it means to have to contend with the warrior inside of ourselves, and to have to warrior our way through, you know, a battlefield that is the worldview that was created for us to sort of have to, you know, constantly be re-experiencing this quest to overcome death and to overcome the body. And our relationship to our body is our relationship to our mother. That's just the truth. And so to begin to take delight in the body, and to begin to take delight in the body as being a universe, an ecosystem in and of itself, that we have tremendous power over the magic that comes of that ecosystem, and to begin to sort of like conceive of what it means to heal this is to actively engage with this divine masculine energy. I'm going to keep pulling. I really want to get a clear picture. It's almost like she's like, you solve the mystery in participation. Solve the mystery in participation. It's time to lead and open your arms. Bottom of the deck. What can you let go of? So I think we have to let go of vengeance. I think we have to think about evil as being a byproduct of deprivation. I think we have to think about deprivation as being the spiritual reality of a world where there's no infrastructure and there's no caring for the dead or even, like, you know, ourselves in the death and dying process, or what it means to sort of not be at war with survival. What can we let go of? Certainty. Around what we understand, because the worldview has to change, and that means co-creating with spirit. And we're not really going to get all the way to the end of this reading with like an easy, neat, wrapped up present. You know, we're sort of having to let go of the security that we still hold on to when we think about exchanges. You know, and as we move into a creative economy, when we think about energy exchange, we got to think about that differently. And we also have to step into our power. We do not lose power by carrying other life into the world or into death because of the way that we're built. You know, we're you know, whether you're in a masculine body where it, you know, the impulse of life is held very, you know, is cradled very, there's a spot, you know, it's held, or you have a womb, you know what I mean, and it's in that space. It's an inexhaustible, you have inexhaustible life, and you have inexhaustible power, and stepping into that power is the opposite of being an individual. And then the Morrigan says, and what you want is union. And so we're leaving the reading there because there's work to be done in that space. So I hope that this wasn't, I hope that this works out for, I hope everybody feels like we got to a place of at least like further coherence with this reading. And so I'm going to go ahead and throw this up because I want to watch it. I'm curious as what, I'm always curious about what comes through here. And you know, I'm always encouraging people to leave questions below. I'm going to make it a point to answer them. So let's end there. All right, I'll see you again soon. Okay, so I'm watching this right now. Like I'm in the middle of watching it. We're not leaving this here. I don't want to leave this here. I'm watching it, and the Morrigan keeps on showing me, like I saw Sleeping Beauty, I saw Snow White. I've been seeing like these stories, and she said to me, Beauty and the Beast leaves off where we are like, well, what's the divine masculine? What is it? If the enchantment is that it looks like a beast, what does it actually look like underneath? And the Morrigan is saying, like, and the reason I was getting all this imagery from these stories is she's saying the unconscious mind, fiction, the imagination, mythology, this is where all of the truth is hidden. And so rather than like leave it at a question mark, we're going to start, we're going to go on a journey, and we're going to start a series right now where we're going to move through all of these archetypal stories, hunting for the divine masculine, the truth of the divine masculine's actual form. Like we're gonna do a series, and we're gonna solve this mystery, and that's how we're going to move forward. So Beauty and the Beast is first, and I think we're going to Sleeping Beauty next. And I'm just going to go through every single archetypal story until we find that nugget of truth, and we're able to conceive of what actually the divine masculine in its healed form looks like, so we can begin to work that way forward, because we are the experience that our ancestors have. And so we determine what that experience is going to be and what that perspective is going to be also. So let's go on a deep dive with this. And yeah, I'm gonna add this to the end.